Yeah, you do.
Why? You lost two really good players for the season, but you still, I don't know if you're leading the league in Nathan and sacks, but you're right up there. What's been the key for putting pressure from your front four?
Well, it's a credit to all the guys and the way they've worked, and nothing happens overnight. We thought this had a chance to be a kind of a breakout year for the group, for the unit. First thing you have to say, I know you're asking directed to our room, but back end's been doing a great job. There hasn't been many windows to throw the ball, so you get a quarterback to double clutch, gives you an extra, fraction of a second to get to the quarterback. But we have a few guys obviously that are having huge impacts on the room with the production of Jalen and Patrick, and Haba's doing a nice job with his development and showing up in production. But really, all of them have continued to rise with the tide of improvement, and really credit the work ethic of our players. The continued development, it doesn't happen overnight, but like a lot of things, when you're building the foundation of things, the next phase is what people see, and that tends to go up fast, and that's what everyone's feeling and seeing right now.
So has Harvard surprised you at all, being so productive at such a young age?
The biggest thing I think that surprised me is I knew he's athletic, and you see certainly his frame and those things, but coming from Italy prior to his senior year of high school, I didn't know how quick he would adapt to this level of football. And to his credit, he's done a great job in terms of learning the game at this level. He's really intelligent. He probably is going to stay down the engineering track, and all that intelligence and work ethic is translating to now what you're seeing production on the field.
I think going into that Duke game, they only allowed one sack, and Central Florida kind of the same thing. So do you look at those kind of things and say, we're going to get them this league?
Well, you try and find ways, right? What Duke did an amazing job of was getting the ball out fast, and so, again, you credit our guys. We had some nice wins to be able to get to them in terms of one-on-one wins, but you also got to credit the back end. For a team that's getting the ball out fast and you're able to have the time to get there, you got to credit the back end and credit our guys for winning quickly as well.
But your mindset is, that going into that game, they only allowed one sack.
Sure, yeah. Certainly so. It was a great challenge for us. You had two teams where the argument you're talking about, it was, two teams that were in the tops of the league in their respective perspective, and it was a goal of ours to get to them. At worst, knock some balls down, at best get a few sacks, and we fortunately were able to accomplish that.
With those two guys out, those two guys, main guys up front, what are they kind of doing on the sideline now and at practice? Are they giving anything positive to those guys?
Oh yeah, they're both. That's the great thing about those two. Obviously, they're going through their rehab, and there's times during the practice where they're inside with the athletic trainers and strength coaches. But there's huge portions of practice where they're out there coaching. The reality is, when you have four guys spread across the line of scrimmage, I can't see them all until you're watching the film. So I'll take any set of qualified eyes that I can get my hands on, and they do a great job. There's been times in games where those two guys have come to me and made really, really good, mature suggestions on things that we should look at and talk about. And it's a credit to how much they paid attention through the course of their recovery and the things they're working on, and a credit to how much they care about our unit and this football team.
Well, what are some of those things that they've mentioned to you without giving too much away?
Yeah, anything related to maybe a move that looks like it could work moving up based on what they just saw. We talk a lot about the game within the game. One move sets up the next move and sets up the next. So a lot of it tends to go down that path of conversation.
For as good as your group has been, Charlie, is it tough not to think about what they could be with those two guys?
I'm not smart enough to even let them, truly, right? Coach speak is coach speak, but I really am better when I am focused on the close and let the goals take care of themselves. I'm not trying to give you a cliche. The reality is, today was our last practice of the bye week. We had a little bit of Syracuse, and I'm recruiting here locally tomorrow, right? And I look at the horizon, but if I get into that, then my mind will go to a bad place, and I know that, so I try and control myself.
What do you think it says about this position and this group, though, that you lose arguably your top two guys or two of your top guys, and they're still able to do what they have been doing? What does it say about the guys you have in that room and about the depth that you all have built in that position?
Well, it certainly is a compliment in terms of the depth that we've been able to build, and you got a lot of young guys too. We like most teams, when we're at team meals on the road, we release them to go get their food by class, and when redshirt freshman is announced to go get their food, we got a lot of guys from the D-line table that stands up and goes to get their meal. But the thing is, it's you're trying to build a culture where, yes, obviously I'm coaching, but we're coaching each other. We're trying to teach each other. We're developing each other. There's things that happen that may not make the paper. It might not be a quotable deal, but I walk in every morning And I'm having to change my schedule at night so that I'm truly available in the morning, because on any given morning, I'm talking guys like 6 o'clock in the morning, there's 5, 6, 7 guys in the room with their breakfast waiting to get extra work done, and that's every day. And you got some guys on the upper end of our room that have experience that, you run into, without naming names, because I don't even think the guy or two I'm thinking of would want me to do it, but in your career, you run across a couple people that make you better as a coach, that challenge you as a coach, that bring up things that make you really investigate portions of what you're teaching. And I got a couple guys in the room that are that. And it's made all of us better. So it's a credit to really the culmination of the entire group to develop each other and create the depth as well.
Anything final for Coach before we get to our players?
For a guy like Jalen, are teams preparing for him differently because of that first month? Are you already seeing that? Or
You're starting to see it now. You're starting to see some protection slide his way. But the great thing, it's funny, we talked about it a little bit earlier this morning. Team slide to him, Amir gets a sack. Right, Patrick Jones pops out, and gets a couple. Pat's been close, but he pops out and gets a couple. So, they're starting now to get to a point where we've done a good job as a group of learning how protections work, and different sections of that. And if they start to account for just him, then this other guy has to win, and then offenses are going to be in a tough position if we can continue to do this. So I hope for Jalen and for the rest of the room we're able to complement each other, because it's going to be really tough on our opponents.
You mentioned recruiting. Are you getting coaches and high school players? You guys really know how to get to the quarterback. Is that?
Yeah, there's a time where it's appropriate. There's guys that you talking about them saying that to us. Yeah, it's happening. I was, I've only been out a little bit. I was in Florida earlier this week, and tomorrow I'll be more local, seeing some of our targets here in the Whitfield area, and I'm sure it'll come up in our conversations tomorrow based on where I'm going. But yeah, it certainly comes up for teams that follow us close.
Thanks.